Good morning. Hi, guys. Good morning. Good to see everybody. All right. So this morning you get a guided meditation. I decided I'm also just going to say a couple of words before the guided meditation about the guided meditation. Okay. So first I'll go ahead and read today's verse 60. You'll need that, won't you? And I'll assume you can hear me. I'll assume somebody would have chatted if in the box if you can't. Okay. All right. All right, so here's today's verse. Good. Thanks, Judy. Here's today's verse. Governing a large country is like frying a small fish. You spoil it with too much poking. Center your country in the Tao, and evil will have no power. Not that it isn't there, but you'll be able to step out of its way. Give evil nothing to oppose, and it will disappear by itself. So the guided meditation that I'm about to lead us in, I'll be drawing from a lot of the verses of the Dao De Jing, but for today's guided meditation, I will be drawing partly from this idea in verse 60. Give evil nothing to oppose, and it will disappear by itself. This idea that in Taoism, that creating something brings its opposite. That if we push, something's going to push back. And here's a paradox. One of the many paradoxes that we find is this idea that if you want to get rid of something, let it be. If you want to overcome something, be soft, right? These paradoxes that we find. We're going to see if we can apply that in our meditation. It sounds a little bit like what we hear in the Yoga Sutras about that yogas chitta vritti nirodha, right? Don't keep spinning around the wheels in your mind. What happens if you just let them be and don't give them so much attention in the first place, let alone the attention plus resistance or other energy that we might give, okay? So that's one thing that we're going to work with in the meditation. And then I also want to bring in some wisdom from verse 59, which we did yesterday. And as I describe this, I want you to just maybe even already kind of close your eyes and start to get into your meditative state as I describe what in this verse is called the moderate man, the marks of a moderate man. But this is also what we're going to do our best to establish in the meditation practice: freedom from our own ideas, cultivating a tolerance like the sky, an all pervasiveness like sunlight, a firmness like a mountain, suppleness like a tree in the wind. Us meditators have no destination in view, and so we can use anything that life happens to pop into our consciousness. All right, let's give it a try in this guided meditation. Allow the sounds of the singing bowl, of the bird song out my window, the sound of my voice. Let all of these sounds begin to call you home. Now and here, places that our consciousness actually very naturally does want to be. Sometimes there's conditioning or fear or other reasons that we sort of try to keep hopping out of the now. But the now, the here, this is the most natural place to be. So just sort of surrender to here and now, to the sounds, the sensations in your body. Notice whatever there is here to notice. And as you do, start to just slow down the breathing a little bit, make it a little more conscious. Allow the inhales to become more full. Allow that exhale to just complete itself before you move on. Allow the parts of you that want to be anchored, the heavy pelvis, the relaxed legs, allow those places to be very heavy, to be anchored. And allow the parts that are light or that want to be buoyant, perhaps the chest, the crown of your head. Allow the buoyant places to be buoyant. Here in the wisdom of your body, you can relate to a wisdom that your mind might find paradoxical, but the body understands. The body is made of opposites. It has parts that are drawn down to the earth to ground us, and parts that are lifted up to the sky to keep us upright. And the more that you can be anchored, actually, the easier it is for the buoyant parts to lift. And vice versa. The opposites are actually partners. They're not at odds at all. And so you're just becoming more and more comfortable being in the present. And as this happens, you begin to take the position of the witness, the one who is observing, feeling. There's actually no room in this here and now if you want to be fully present in it. There's no room really for you to start imposing your will, to manipulate. The more you kind of leave that ego part behind, the doer, and allow yourself just to be, allow this body, heart, and mind to be and be observed, the more comfortable you realize it is to be the witness in the now and here. The Dao De Jing speaks a lot about being a good leader, about how to govern, how to be a good shepherd in a way. And you don't have to preside over a country politically or be in government for this to be relevant. We all are sort of masters of our own domains. And the foremost domain that we're in charge of is this. What you find when you close your eyes and sit to meditate, this body, physical body, as well as this emotional body and mental body and spiritual body. Whatever it is that makes up this human, you're in charge of it. And so when you want to return to being the witness today in meditation, what would it feel like to, just for a moment, as you switch gears back into being the leader aligned with the Tao, if you imagined yourself as a king or a queen, as this regal, wise, self-possessed, empowered being, Can you feel yourself be a little more grounded, sitting a little more tall, a little more centered, trusting yourself and your position here? And we also learn that the good leader, the best kind of leader, takes care of her country and her citizens, takes care of them the way a mother would take care of their child, with just such a natural sense of love and responsibility and affection. Can you observe your body and all the things happening inside of your own consciousness? Can you observe those with love, from your sitting from your throne, unafraid, empowered? From that place, can you look and see that everything in this country, in this body, in yourself is beautiful and lovable? Don't worry about anything that is not within your own borders. You have plenty to take care of right now, here. You have so much to love, to witness, to come to understand and know here. And now our job is essentially to continue to allow ourselves to align with the Tao over the course of the next several minutes. It's already happening. It already wants to happen. It is already inevitable. At some point, we're going to fully reunite with the Tao. Why not do it this morning, right here in meditation? And what that is, in a sense, is dropping our defenses. It's actually to stop putting energy into being something other than we are. Now, if the mind still really needs to be focused, go ahead and use a mantra for a few minutes now. However, if it feels like you can just sit on your throne and observe what's happening within your borders, then do that. Give yourself permission to be free, even from your own ideas, especially from your own ideas, right? From whatever thoughts are coming in and out, just let them be, let them come and go. Soften instead of hardening, accept instead of defending, or trying to change anything that comes through. Give evil nothing to oppose, and it will disappear by itself. And don't get too hung up on the word evil. It's not a word I use very often, right? This is a quote. But what I really mean is just anything that you don't want in your consciousness. Don't feed it with your resistance. Don't feed it with your no. Make room for it, just like everything else in this country has room. Can you feel yourself tolerant like the sky? Can you feel your awareness, your power, your grace flowing through every part of this inner country, all pervading like sunlight? Can you feel the sunlight in every cell of your being? Can you feel that there's a firmness here, physically, but also mentally and emotionally, firm like a mountain? Can you feel yourself also equally supple, like a tree in the wind? Do you feel as you breathe this gentle movement? It's fluid and easeful. Notice when you start to get stuck on a goal or a destination for your day. And see what you can do to soften your grip. See what you can do to just kind of almost deflate that willpower, that will to change. Just soften it, deflate it, let it go, and return to being the witness. The witness of this beautiful, one-of-a-kind, unique country that is you. As we wrap up our time together today in meditation, how much resistance can you release in these final moments? How much presence can you achieve by not trying to achieve anything at all? Right. So once again this week I'll share the Google Doc with you guys. And today we'll reflect. We're going to take a couple minutes break for you to look at this, and then we'll reflect together on, did I share this? On verses 54 through 60, 54 through 60. And so you'll just scroll down through that doc to like page 26 or so, 25, 24. And just look through the handful from this past week, and you know the drill. Let's say I'll give everybody 3 minutes, and then you can type into the chat box anything you want to talk about. Hi, guys. I hope that the thunderstorm isn't, I don't know what it sounds like on your end, but during the meditation it started thundering and raining. I actually also had to get up and get my dog because I didn't want her out there. She was outside, which she often is during her meditations, but I had to get her so she didn't get rained on. Also, she's a little scared of the thunder. Anyway, I hope it's not too distracting to sound. I like the sound. Okay, good. It sounds wonderful, Pants. That's great. You never know how sound travels through the mic. You okay? You okay with that? You'll be all right. Okay. So, verses 54. Oh, I always like to get an audio of this. It's so much easier to deal with than a video, which is, it's done. Okay. All right. Dao De Jing, verses 54 through 60. We're just doing a little reflection today, considering what from this last handful of verses felt the most resonant, what felt confusing, what felt like it wanted to be discussed or just kind of emphasized or underlined. And so everyone who is here on the line live is welcome to type into the chat box. Anybody who is participating remotely is welcome to add something to the comments so that we can keep this convo going. So I'm just going to today, we have like 7 to cover. So I'm just going to go ahead and go through them and note some things that I think are interesting. I don't have any comments in the chat box from those who are here live yet. So I'll just do that until someone interrupts me with their own thoughts, and then we can have a conversation. Verse 54, whoever is planted in the Tao will not be rooted up. There's a lot that we can say about this, but one of the things about this book is there's a lot of nature metaphor. And we find nature metaphor throughout all spiritual texts in some way or another. And we find nature metaphor everywhere, right? Because as humans, we look around the world and we wonder, how do things work in nature? That's the bigger thing that we're a part of. So for me, the natural world is the medium through which I experience spirituality, essentially, and these bigger truths and principles of nature. It's how I realize there's something bigger than my own mind that is in charge. And in that humbling ourselves to the natural world and realizing that we are a part of this, we're not the master of it, we start to make that transition from being the kind of the foolish ego self to the wise witness self. But yeah, that right there, whoever is planted in the Tao will not be rooted up. It's a really nice sense, right? Whoever embraces the Tao will not slip away. Her name will be held in honor from generation to generation. So that, that last line of the first part of 54 reminds us that it's not promising us that the body will live forever, but that some aspect of the self will always be. And this is a comfort to me, in many ways, to hear this, right? If I can just keep coming to my meditation seat every day, I experience that sense of rootedness, right? If I'm going to instead plant myself into something more shallow, material, less long lasting, if I plant myself in this, material world and I start competing with my neighbors and that becomes like what it is that I do, there's nothing lasting for me to plant myself into. There's nothing of endurance for me to connect to. And so our spiritual practice is this, our meditation practice our community time, our time right now, reflecting on this ancient book. These are all ways that we embrace the Tao. We plant ourselves in the Tao. All right, 55. He who is in harmony with the Tao is like a newborn child. This one's kind of funny, and spins our heads around by thinking, a baby in charge, a baby being a leader. But again, he's asking us to look to nature and to see the power in things that we might think of, or that might look on the outside as weak, but to notice the power of the baby. And also noticing that the baby isn't necessarily conscious, right? It doesn't know about the union in male and female, yet it can have an erection. It doesn't, its bones are soft and its muscles are weak, but it has a powerful grip. How is that? The baby is just being exactly what it is. It's not wasting any time or energy on trying to be something other than a baby. And the master's power is like this. He lets all things come and go effortlessly without desire. This is an interesting one. He never expects results, and thus he is never disappointed. He is never disappointed, thus his spirit never grows old. So this is an if-then, if-then. If you aren't expecting particular results at any given juncture, if you realize that, you could do all the work and you could plant the plant in the ground and water it and give it sunshine, and it still may not come up. If we're like really disappointed by all of the little things that we plant that don't come up, or that come up maybe looking differently than we expected, that feeling of being disappointed. Oh gosh, that feeling has aged me for sure. What does that feel like? It happens all the time, even with like technology. Oh man, I get so mad when like an app or something on my computer or phone doesn't work the way it's supposed to. I expected this to take 5 minutes, but now I have to figure out whatever this technical thing is. It's going to take 10 or 20 minutes. I'm very disappointed by that. I had not planned for that. And the feeling inside my own experience in my domain is not good. And I have learned this, that our emotional experiences have ramifications, physical ramifications. They age us. We know this. But I'm harping on this little bit for a moment because what I'm most interested in when I'm sharing the reflections, when you're asking questions, I'm most interested in discussing with you whatever is interesting to you and helping you dig in deeper and connect. But when I share these things, my goal is really that, you've already got the text. I'm not rewriting the Dao De Jing. I wouldn't dare. It's so wonderful. But just to help you connect and to use it. And I'm not ashamed to admit that remembering things like this, even if it's kind of shallow, like remembering, like, Aaron, do you want a new wrinkle on your face? Do you want to deepen this big couple, trenches there on your forehead? You can. You want to worry about this? You want to really dig into this disappointment? You can do that. We're pressing, we're accelerating our aging. We're moving further from being that supple, healthy baby into being somebody whose body is moving toward the end. You can hasten that if you want. And sometimes the thought of not wanting another wrinkle on my face is more of a motivator than, I don't know, whatever else. Becoming a bodhisattva with endless compassion for all beings, right? If it works, it works. Motivate yourself with your motivations. I think a lot about the Yoga Sutras account of how the the yamas work. And he says, those who never, well, and this is a tautology, but anyway, but he's like, those who never lie, everything they say comes true. So I think about this sometimes. Would you like to be able to say, okay, I'm going to have everything I need this year. I'm not going to feel stressed. Would I like that to be able to be true? I think about that when I'm about to tell a little convenient lie that's going to be a little easier than telling the truth to someone. And I find a way to tell truth, find a way to skillfully, caringly do that. And for whatever reason, that little thing motivates me. Like don't expect results and stay young. All right. 56. Those who know don't talk. Those who talk don't know. The last verse of the Dao De Jing says something kind of similar. Like the way that he leaves this whole thing is like, I just talked a lot. And yeah. And then he basically describes going into meditation. He says, close your mouth, block off your senses, blunt your sharpness, untie your knots. I love that line. Soften your glare. I love that one too. Settle your dust. I love that one too. This is the primal identity. The primal identity, the one that we all share, actually, the witness. What we're witnessing might be different depending on whatever we were born into, whatever part of the planet we were born, right? What I perceive in one part of the planet might be palm trees, and another it might be glaciers. But the primal identity is the witness. Be like the Tao, it can't be approached or withdrawn from, benefited or harmed, honored or brought into disgrace. I love that too. And it's a little, it also kind of makes us think about the way that even a lot of spirituality and religion, Judy says, so many paradoxes. Yes. This part, but it makes sense, right? That, okay, so if you think about sort of all religions, all spiritual traditions posit essentially, and please, no one ever does this, but I would love it, and I love conversing about this stuff. So if you want to challenge me or say I don't believe that, or give me a counterexample, let's go, anytime. But from what I have seen, no matter what religion or spiritual lineage you're practicing in, there's this idea that there's something bigger than the human, and that we are, whether you want to call it worshiping or honoring God, whichever version of that this religion espouses, or however they describe God, that what we're doing in our practices is we are getting ourselves back in the right relationship with what is bigger than us. One of subservience, but also great gratitude. Thank you, thank you, thank you, right? All of our food comes from the Great Mother. Thank you for this daily bread, right? Whatever it is. I didn't invent bread. I didn't invent earth. So I'm here just thank you. Thank you, thank you. However, this is kind of interesting, right? Remembering that as soon as we think that God can be benefited or harmed, if I pray to my God, I'm benefiting him. If I don't, am I taking away from him? He says, the Tao can't be honored or brought into disgrace. Wait, I can't honor my God? And of course, we can do this, but what he's saying is, and another thing that we've heard about the Tao, and this all-encompassing, all-powerful, essentially, though in Taoism it's not posited as a God in a kind of anthropomorphic way, that This is God. That was God, right? Essentially. But that God also doesn't, God is humble. God lives in, in every cell of my little dog's being here, right? The Tao lives inside of the best Olympic athlete and inside of, the sick old man, whatever it is, whatever your, examples are. It is everything. Right? So, and it doesn't need us. We need it. Judy's asking, what I am hearing is that I personally can't impact the Tao. Yes. I think that's one part of it. Let me see if I can come up with a metaphor, a nature metaphor. And actually, this is something that I use all the time when I'm trying to talk about the power of like emptiness. So like I am throwing this ball up and down. I am impacting the space around me. I am changing and moving things. The Tao has designed us so that we do change and move and shift things in our reality. But the Tao itself, you could say the universe itself it can't be hurt. There's no injury we can give to the Tao, essentially. At the same time, we can't make it better. The same way that me like moving this ball through the air, it's not going to hurt the air. If I threw this ball at you, right, at your body could get hurt. Okay, we could also say this, but guess what wouldn't be hurt? Your awareness, your witness, the aspects of you that are more like the Tao and less like material reality. Does that make sense? But there is this kind of interesting irony here, which is that which is most powerful, though it's most worthy of our praise and gratitude. We do that honoring, praising, gratitude, worship. We do our religious or spiritual practice, not for the Tao. The Tao, I mean, have you heard about it? It gave birth to the universe. We have no concept of what the mother of the universe could even, what kind of powers that could be. She's our mother. She's the mother of everything. And so every offering we bring to her, all that really is doing is bringing us closer to alignment with the Tao. It makes us more like her. And this is saying, be like her. Be like this. And for me personally, as somebody who has been overcoming for a long time now my own anxious attachment styles and my own sort of, I've had a past tendency to, and also being the child of a narcissist, also having this need for other people around me to give me validation, to and this is all natural to a certain extent too, but I think that it can also be, what I'm trying to say is that I think within me it created a lot of suffering because it was taken to such a degree. But this desire, I want other people to approach me, not withdraw. And so when someone would approach me and seem to, when I was the it girl, or people wanted to give, I don't know, be my friend or date me or give me a job or cast me in a play or whatever, me being approached felt like I was more like the Tao. I was associating power with being this shiny one. I wanted everything to benefit me, not harm me. I wanted to always be honored and respected and never disgraced. This is most of us to a certain extent. But again, I think for me, in some ways, I could find it myself as extreme. So I really depended on other people to validate me. And increasingly, as I am absorbing this wisdom, I find I don't rely on others to do that. It's great. Awesome. Thank you so much for benefiting me or honoring me or whatever, or approaching me. But I'm also, if I'm dependent on that, that means I'm also dependent on never being rejected, withdrawn from, right? The Tao doesn't seem to mind that a lot of the creatures here don't practice religion, right? Like my dog, for instance. Like the vast majority of the creatures on the planet aren't doing that, right? They spontaneously honor the Tao, he says, in their own way. Okay. I don't want to go too much longer, but so 57. I just want to say also that we're into a section of the book where he talks a lot about being a leader and leading a country, and I encourage you to apply that metaphor to anything at all that you're in charge of, and you're foremost in charge of your own body, your own self. This is the country you govern. And so see if you can relate these when he's talking about that. See if that helps in any way. If you want to be a great leader, you must learn to follow the Tao. Stop trying to control. Let go of your fixed plans and concepts, and the world will govern itself. The world is governing itself. Right? The natural world is already governing itself. We know this. And then the next verse of this describes something, this concept that we apply in meditation, and we did before we started diving into the Dao De Jing. This idea that if you put up resistance to something, you actually increase its strength. The more we put up defenses, the more whatever it is out there needs to grow to overcome those defenses, right? On a microbiological level, we know this is true. People who take a lot of antibiotics can become resistant to antibiotics, right? Because what happens is, like, the more that we create these defenses, the more that the germs, essentially these little, tiny life forms, they evolve in order to overcome our antibiotics. So, and Lao Tzu would also say too, like, because he talks about how sometimes you got to go to war, sometimes you got to build a wall, defenses, sometimes you've got to participate that way. It happens. He's not dogmatic. He thinks that there's different circumstances where you need to do different things, and I agree. And I will take an antibiotic when I need to. Those of you who are on my retreat with me, and I got the double Lyme bites, I went and got my doxycycline. But the point is, you don't want that to be the kind of way that you go around the world. Constantly competing and battling and, trying to control and manipulate everything. I mean, man, you're going to exhaust yourself, and it just doesn't work. Whatever it is that you're trying to battle feels your resistance, and it grows stronger from it. And so we learn this in studying the Yoga Sutras, and this basic idea in meditation. Don't fight your thoughts. Don't, yeah. But he says, like, the more prohibitions you have, the less virtuous people will be. The more weapons you have, the less secure people will be. Oh my gosh. I mean, that line with the gun debate right now, right? The way to stop a school shooter is to arm all the teachers. Great. And then what's going to be the way to stop a teacher who's bullying kids with the gun? Let's arm all the kids. I mean, I don't know, it's like, what point does that logic stop? And, the more prohibitions you have, the less virtuous people will be. It's again, it's like, if we don't trust and we're trying to control, we have to recognize that the nature of everything here, everything that the Tao has made, is that it wants to be itself. A good governor knows that everyone deserves the right to, at least within their own domain, self-govern. And no matter how much we condition people and we train them and we put them in cages, mentally, physically, emotionally, whatever, no matter how much you do that, the powerful essence of everything is that it will want to be free. It will want to express itself. It will want to make its contributions to the Tao in its way. And that's how it should be, right? And so we learn how to do that with ourselves too. An emotion comes up. Oh, that's anger. Oh, that's bad. Put it in a cage, right? Get rid of it, whatever, right? Oh, this has something to share. This has some kind of expression here. I'm going to let it be. And I'm going to learn from it. This beginning of 58 kind of echoes the exact same thing. John Samuel says, the thunder reminds me of the power of the Tao. It's reminding me of that too. Okay, we just have a couple more here. If a country is governed with tolerance, the people are comfortable and honest. If a country is governed with repression, the people are depressed and crafty. And then this goes on about how if you try to make people happy, you lay the groundwork for their misery. If you try to make people moral, you lay the groundwork for vice. And hopefully by this point, you've heard this stuff enough and kind of sat with it enough that you can feel how true this is. And again, just look to examples in our modern world. Don't try to make me moral. Tell me, I bet you have an innate sense of goodness in there. Find that and act on it, right? That's going to have a really different result with me. Okay. Oh, and this, thus the master is content to serve as an example and to not impose her will. Ruling by making it, this is what we do. This is our culture. This is how we are, as opposed to these are the laws and everyone must follow them and you will be punished otherwise. Okay. Verses 59 and 60, I talked about a little bit actually at the top of today, so I'm not going to go too much into them, but in today's guided meditation, I drew from much of the language of these two verses. 59 is the one that says, for governing your country well, there is nothing better than moderation. And then he describes a moderate man in this beautiful way that I talk about at the beginning of today and in the meditation. Because he has let go, he can care for the people's welfare as a mother cares for her child. We've had this mother metaphor come up a lot. But it's not like okay, the baby's born and somebody has to come and go, hey, you need to take care of this thing. It's really important, right? There is a natural, innate, Tao given, not human given, sense inside that you want to. That's just what you're going to do. That's your role here, right? You're going to take care. And we hear this a lot also, that when you can let go and you're not trying to be in control and you're not trying to impose your will, that it makes it possible for the leader to be at ease and to be actually much more powerful, because they're able to go with the flow, as we say, and shift and change with circumstances. All right, verse 60. Again, he's asking, I asked us to consider the self as like the country, quote unquote, that we're governing, because this is another one he talks about government. Center your country in the Tao and evil will have no power. Not that it isn't there, but you'll be able to step out of its way. Give evil nothing to oppose, and it will disappear by itself. I've been thinking about this concept at work, having a little bit of like power struggle with someone at work, and a little bit of a just kind of figuring out how we work together, even though our management styles are really different. And it's been really interesting when I feel myself triggered and I feel myself defensive, and like the energy that I'm putting into that, it just stirs up the situation a lot. But if I could be like the Tao and I just sort of trust myself, I'm not blustering like I'm right, but I just trust myself. I find that, collaboration becomes a lot easier. And it also just reminding me of how much, for so much of my life, I've essentially had some kind of imposter syndrome where I felt like I had so much to prove. And I spent so much energy trying to prove things to people without realizing that, at least for some of the wiser people, they sniffed that. Maybe even some people who weren't that wise, but just subconsciously, it's like they could tell that I didn't really have confidence. And that I was instead trying to get respect through kind of impressing people, if that makes sense. I used to do a lot of trying to impress people. And this is something that I get a lot out of this, is stop it. Stop that. The Tao does not try to impress. And yet it is the most impressive thing. It's not a thing. It's the only thing here that's not a thing, right? And that we want to be like that. And when we give evil nothing to oppose, it will disappear by itself, right? And replace evil with anything at all that you don't want in your life. And it's just like that anger. If you give it the space, it'll come through. It won't be able to really, really hurt anything, and it'll pass on. Okay, bye, Well, we've spent a nice chunk of time together this morning, and I've talked a lot, so I'm going to let us wrap up here. And the sound of this thunderstorm here, and the sound of my dog chewing on a bone, take us out here. Chewing dog. All right. Thank you so much for spending time with me this morning. I appreciate you all very, very much. And I will see you guys tomorrow.